Last week on the Lost Gardens of Chateau de Rosieres, we showed you the start of an enormous project to transform an abandoned water tank into a working greenhouse. The abandoned water tank, or cistern, lies to the southeast of the chateau. And before we get started on work today, I'm going to show you a much more detailed drawing of our plans to help you visualise what we're really trying to achieve here. This is still very much an amateur drawing, but I wanted to explain to you in more detail exactly how this project works. So around the back we have the existing wall. It's a monumental stone wall that holds up the terraces that are in front of the chateau. And Hervé and Marc in the previous episodes were fixing the other end of that wall. So this is actually at the top end. The chateau is just up here, and this is the old entrance to the chateau. Now the cistern, the old abandoned water tank, is a huge square hollow building, and it was based on an old pond and then built up on top of it to become a water storage. And unfortunately it's just too leaky and too difficult to repair, and there are a lot of logistical problems with it. So Marc's idea was to unbury it. So this represents the ground. Now when you walk through this door, you arrive at the cistern at this height and you can just step onto it, onto the roof of it. So we won't unbury this part, but we will here landscape this so that you can access the full side here, the eastern side. We're going to open a door here so that you can walk into the main body of the cistern. Then on the south side, this south facing wall, we'll open another door and a window. To bring the windows for light and the door is for access to the greenhouse. Now this is all completely new. We're going to build a small wall here, which will finish butting up against the big wall. And then we will put the arcs of the old greenhouse, which are essentially quarter circles, up against the south wall of the cistern and secure them into that wall. And then we will put new glass, that's what these are, little panes of glass, all the way up and along here. And you will access inside the greenhouse by coming into the main room and then through that door there. And this is one of the things we were agonizing over in the last week's video, whether to do a direct access. For many reasons we decided not to. Now as we've gone on, Marc has also decided to add a set of cold frames further down. With my inexperience of perspective and drawing, I have failed to show that this is actually quite a slope down here. So as you go down the slope, there are these different buildings. If this rough and ready drawing isn't so clear, this is a bird's eye view of it. So we have the wall, the cistern, the greenhouse, and then the cold frames, and the door in and a door out into the greenhouse. And this is a just plain side-on view. That's exactly what you will see. The greenhouse with its panes of glass, a small wall, the cold frames, and the side of the cistern. And eventually the cistern is going to be used as a technical room. So not just for storing gardening equipment, but also for doing things like hydroponics, starting off seedlings, even before it's warm enough out there. And so Marc needs to make sure it's a really good working technical room with good drainage, good electricity, and good lighting. As with last week, this was filmed back in July, and we had the chance as a family to go off for a couple of days to watch a stage of the Tour de France. Hervé carried on with the work in our absence, which of course we couldn't film, but he encountered some unexpected problems, and I'll hand you over to Marc to explain what happened.
Hervé had started opening a door towards the future greenhouse in the cistern in order to turn it into a garden shed. But it turned out that the cistern was really, really strong, and he spent ages trying to just do a little hole in it. So we decided to call one of his friends with a little digger and a hydraulic breaker on it to make the work a bit faster. It turns out that even with the hydraulic breaker it's really hard, because for some reason the concrete is much harder than concrete we have nowadays, and also there was an iron belt around it to contain the water. So it was quite a hard job, but he's managing slowly.
Since the sound of jackhammers and rock breaking isn't the most relaxing thing to listen to, I'm going to be lowering the volume and adding some music whilst you watch the progress that Ludovic makes. Several fairly excruciating hours later, it was at last possible to see the outline of the future door and to walk easily in and out of the old cistern. Next, it was time for door number 2. It's worth restating here that although this looks like any other stone building on the estate, it was actually lined with very thick concrete and a metal band going around the inside, because at one point it was a watertight water tank. Mark has got his own digger out now, not because he was feeling left out, or at least not just because of that, but also because he wanted to do some more landscaping to expose the side of the cistern a bit further. As you might remember from my drawings and from our measuring last week, the cistern is half buried under the soil, and it's obviously much easier to get to it if we can remove some of the soil along the side. Having a flat, level area beside the future greenhouse will also help us to be able to do things like potting outdoors and to help with access.
We're installing a drainage pipe, and also we're doing hérisson underneath.
Hérisson.
Basically,
Hedgehog.
we put some rubble underneath so that the water drains under the slab. Because as it's buried, there will be some water flowing there.
And where will it flow to if there's concrete underneath
in the
it?
greenhouse.
Okay.
Well, towards the outside. I'm just going to make a bit of noise.
Voilà, là c'est fait. Hein. C'est impeccable.
That sounded quite hollow where you just left it.
Yeah, basically the reason why Hervé struggled to break is that all the top was solid concrete, as you can see here, and concrete blocks, but the base was actually masoned with lime, which makes it a lot more tender, because the base was an ornamental pond in the past, and then it was raised and turned into a cistern. So the base is actually fairly easy to break.
Although the kids absolutely love watching the work going on, it's obviously not great to have them around very noisy equipment for too long. So at this point I took them back out to the house for their tea. As I was also doubling as camera woman, this meant that I couldn't film the very end of the day's work. Mark and Ludovic carried on installing the drainage, and in the end huge progress was made in this just one day. Join us next week when huge progress is also made on building the foundation wall for the greenhouse itself. Thank you very much for watching us this week. If you're not already subscribed, please press that button and turn on notifications. It makes a big difference to how YouTube promotes our account to other people.